Hello and welcome to another tutorial video. Today we are going to be looking at Unit 11, which is going to be speaking about sequences and also about a couple of different chords. The 6 chord, the 3 chord, and the 7 chord. And this material can be found in the Celebrate Theory Harmony Level 9 book, published through the Royal Conservatory of Music. Now, something that's interesting about this particular chapter is that we have 3 different chords, which I could say are on the lower part of the totem pole, if we were to say that in regards to tonal hierarchy. Now, if we were to look at here at what chord hierarchy or tonal hierarchy means, basically this is a list of all of the different chords and how they rate in the sense of the strength of the chords within the key center. So of course the tonic, it being the most important and strongest chord in any key, major or minor, is then followed by the dominant chord, the 5 chord. The 4 chord is also important because it shares the same quality in shape and sound as the key that we are in. So if we are in a major key, the 4 chord is always going to be a major chord based on the notes that are played in that key. And if we are in a minor key, the 4 chord will always be a minor chord. Now we've also learned that the 2 chord can be used especially as a predominant chord, so a chord that comes right prior to an authentic cadence, a 5-1 cadence. And also this chord can be used as an interesting 7 chord, so a 2-7 chord can be created, and also we can use that chord intermittently within a phrase. Now when we speak about the 3, the 6, and the 7 chords, these are weaker chords. The 3 chord, for example, in a major key is a minor triad. So if we were thinking in the scale of C major, the 3 chord would be on E, G, B. And this chord can be used within a certain number of contexts, but usually because of the notes being E, G, B, and if we think of the tonic chord being C, E, G, there are 2 notes that are the same between that chord. And then if we think E, G, B, and then we compare that to the dominant chord, which is G, B, D, again, we have 2 notes that are the same. Now, the tonic chord or the dominant chord are higher in the tonal or chord hierarchy than the 3 chord. So whenever there's a possibility to use the tonic or the dominant, it's always suggested to try to aim towards those chords, but to use the 3 chord sparingly. But it can pop in, but not as commonly or as usefully as the tonic or dominant chord could be used. Now the same thing can be said about the 6 chord. The 6 chord would be starting on the 6th note of the scale. So if we were again to be in the key of C major, the 6th chord would start on A. Now if we compare A minor to C major, you can see how there are 2 notes that are the same, C and E. And so sometimes whenever we see a C or an E or an A, we could use the 6th chord, but it sometimes is stronger to use, well, most of the time, it's stronger to use the tonic chord. Now we can also compare the 6th chord to the 4 chord, F, A, C. And you can see how 6, which is A, C, E, and 4, which is F, A, C, contains 2 notes that are the same again. But again, based on the chord hierarchy, the 4 chord is higher on the list than the 6 chord. So whenever we have melody notes or bass notes where there's the possibility of using either 4 or 6, 4 is more favored just because it's a stronger chord. However, sometimes the 6 chord can be used as well. I would suggest that if we think of the 3, the 6, and the 7 chords as a little bit of extra spice that we want to add to our dish or our chord progression, we can use these chords to add a little bit of extra zing or spice to our phrase, but without adding too much spice. So we don't want to have it be too spicy or have things be overpowering what dish we want to make. So if we add a 3 chord or a 6 chord into the mix a little bit at a time, it helps to add a little bit of variety, but also while making sure that the chord hierarchy of the stronger chords are to be used more often than the ones that are slightly weaker. When we speak about the 7 chord is a diminished triad in a major key. So if we are in the key of C major, the 7 chord is B, D, F. But you can think how, if we think of the dominant 7th chord, G, B, D, F, all 3 notes of the diminished 7th or the diminished chord are in the dominant 7th chord. So the 7 chord can be used sometimes, but traditionally that chord is used as a passing chord. And most of the time as well, because it is a diminished triad in root position and also with the inversions, if we were to play a 7 chord in first inversion or second inversion, you can hear how it still sounds diminished, but not as jarring or in the classical terms off-putting as we play if we have the 7 chord with an inversion, such as first inversion. So the diminished chord on the 7th note of the scale in a major key is traditionally written as 7/6, which is first inversion. So I do hope that you find this information helpful as we have this first part of this explanation for Unit 11. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you for the next tutorial very soon. Until then, take care for now.